Welcome to Dead Air. I'm Danny.
I'm Siren.
This is where the signal fades and the stories get darker. From the paranormal to true crime, from the depths of Reddit to the corners of the dark web, we explore the things that linger just out of sight and sometimes a little too close. Welcome to Dead Air. I'm Danny.
I'm Siren.
Yeah, so today, episode 3, we're going to be talking about urban folklore. Yeah, so I chose something that has piqued my interest for so long. I don't know if you guys know who Candyman is, but um, this is going to be a very interesting deep dive into how it started and the actual symbolism behind the lore. Born in the late 1800s, in the uneasy, fragile years following the Civil War, Daniel Robital entered a world that had technically changed, but not nearly enough. The chains had been broken, at least on paper, but the echoes of slavery still lingered in every corner of society. For many, freedom came with limits, with danger, with invisible lines you were never meant to cross. But Daniel's story didn't begin in hardship alone. It began with something far more unsettling: promise. His father, a man who had once been enslaved, carried both the scars of his past and an unshakable determination to rise above it. He worked tirelessly, obsessively, driven by the belief that survival wasn't enough. He wanted a legacy, and somehow, against all odds, he was able to achieve it. Through ingenuity and relentless effort, he created a machine that could mass produce shoes, an invention that would change everything. It brought wealth, success, status, a level of power that few black men at that time could ever hope to reach. And I mean, even now. And with that success, Daniel was given access to a world that was never meant for him. A world of privilege, of polished classrooms, of white faces that didn't expect or accept his presence. As Daniel grew into an adult, he moved through a world that, on the surface, seemed to accept him, at least more than it had accepted those before him. Doors had opened just enough to give the illusion of progress, and Daniel, he stepped through them. He was gifted, an artist with a steady hand and a rare eye for detail. Painting became more than a skill, it became his identity, his escape, his way of being seen in a society that often refused to truly see him. By his mid-20s, his talent had earned him something extraordinary: a commission from a wealthy white landowner. Daniel was hired to paint the man's daughter. She was young, beautiful, untouched by the harsh realities of the world beyond their family's wealth. And as the days stretched into weeks, something began to shift between artist and subject. What started as an observation turned into a connection, and connection turned into something far more dangerous. Because despite the illusion of progress, the truth was far more brutal. This was still a world ruled by hatred, by unspoken laws, by consequences that didn't need to be written down to be understood. A black man loving a white woman wasn't just forbidden, it was a death sentence. And when it was discovered that she was pregnant, there would be no turning back. Ooh. So now we're talking about interracial relationships, especially back then. I
Oh.
know
Mm.
last episode we were talking a little bit about that and how things are starting to roll back.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
so this kind of has a lot to do with that.
Mm.
When Caroline's father found out, it wasn't a quiet discovery. It was explosive. The truth spread quickly. His daughter, pregnant, and the father of her child was Daniel Robital. To him, this wasn't just a scandal, it was an insult, a violation, something that had to be erased. So he took it to the town. What followed wasn't justice, it was a hunt, fueled by rage and something far more dangerous. A mob formed almost instantly. Men armed with whatever they could carry, voices rising, faces twisted with purpose. They weren't looking for answers. They were looking for Daniel. And when they found him, there was no hesitation. They dragged him, beat him, tore him down piece by piece until he was barely recognizable. And then it got worse. A rusted saw, slow, deliberate. They severed his hand. And as if that wasn't enough, they covered his broken body in honey. Thick, sticky, intentional. Oh.
What the fuck? Silent.
I'm trying to get back into it.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
All right. Go ahead.
I got this. Okay. A ritual of cruelty. As the air filled with the low, ominous hum of bees, the crowd began to chant, Candyman, 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 over and over, like they were calling something into existence. And then they left him there, alone, to suffer. Hours passed, long enough for the frenzy to settle, long enough for curiosity, or maybe something darker, to pull them back. When the townspeople returned, they expected silence, a body, but Daniel Robitel was still alive, barely. And then, through the crowd, Caroline, desperate, screaming, pushing past the very people who had done this to him, trying to reach him, to stop it, to save what was left. But she was too late. Her father stepped forward, calm now, controlled. He held up a mirror, forcing Daniel to look at what they had turned him into. And in that final moment, broken, bleeding, barely holding on, Daniel spoke. Candyman. And then he was gone. The crowd fell still. But Caroline didn't. She took the mirror, his mirror, and ran. And later, when she looked into it, she didn't just see herself. She saw him. And from that moment on, she never let it go. What happened to Daniel Robitel should have ended there. Brutal act, a buried story, and another name lost to history. But it didn't, because some deaths don't stay quiet. What the townspeople did to Daniel Robitel in their final moments with him, as they stood there chanting his name over and over like a ritual they didn't fully understand, they weren't just mocking him, they were creating something. Something that would outlive them all. Daniel didn't remain a man. What came back was something else entirely. A specter, born from unimaginable pain, from rage that had nowhere to go, from a death so violent it refused to stay buried. Candyman, no longer flesh, no longer bound by the rules of the living, and bound to a single terrifying condition. Say his name, and he answers. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, if you call him, he comes. And when he does, he doesn't leave anyone behind. And at first, it was just whispers. Stories passed between neighbors in hushed tones, children daring each other to repeat the name they weren't supposed to say. Adults dismissed it, but locking their doors a little tighter at night. They said if you stood in front of a mirror, alone, and spoke his name not once, not twice, but 5 times, he would come. Not as a man he once was, but as something else. Something twisted. Something born from pain, rage, and something that was suffering. A name that started as a chant, turning into a warning, then a dare, and eventually a legend. Because the story didn't just live on, it grew. Each saying adds something new. a hook for a hand, bees that followed him like a living shadow, a reflection that didn't belong to you. And somewhere along the line, people stopped asking if it was true and started asking, what if it is? So we're going to talk about the symbolism. To some, Candyman reads like nothing more than a campfire warning, a story to scare children into behaving. But in the real world, legends like that rarely come from nowhere. They grow out of neighborhoods marked by segregation, neglect, and violence, where fear becomes a part of daily life and rumors fill the gaps left by silence. In that way, Candyman reflects something bigger than an urban legend. It mirrors how communities can turn real trauma into myth and how history can haunt a place long after the cameras move on. You can also think of it as a story about belief, belief becoming a kind of witness. When people repeat a legend often enough, it stops feeling fictional and starts feeling inevitable. That's what makes Candyman unsettling. Not just the ghost story itself, but the real conditions underneath it. From the racial terror of public abandonment that make the legend feel plausible in the first place. So a lot of people don't know that the story of Candyman. Actually, there was a true crime that happened around the time that the story started like popping up or it was made.
Mhm.
Um, and it took place in Cabrini Green, and Cabrini Green is in southern Chicago. So it's the story of this older woman, um, older mentally ill woman. Okay. In the spring of 1987, a 52-year-old woman named Ruthie Mae McCoy lived alone in a Chicago housing project, unaware that her apartment had already become part of a deadly pattern. On the night of April 22, she called 911 in a panic, telling dispatchers that someone was trying to get into her home through a bathroom wall. What she was describing sounded impossible at first, but it wasn't. Ruthie was living in a building where a hidden construction flaw connected apartments through the space behind the medicine cabinets. In other words, the wall separating one unit from the next wasn't as secure as it should have been. The gap gave intruders a way in, and before long, Ruthie's fear became horrifyingly real. Days later, police found her dead in her apartment, shot 4 times. What makes this case so chilling is that Ruthie tried to warn someone. She did what you're supposed to do. She called for help, but her call was misunderstood, treated like a disturbance instead of a break in. And by the time officers fully entered the apartment, it was too late. Her murder became one of the most disturbing examples of how neglect, broken systems, and unsafe housing can turn into a death sentence. So that's it.
Wow.
That is it. And that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, yeah, a lot of Candyman's lore has to do with racism and segregation,
Of course.
but also about the projects and how things go unanswered and how people's fears can end up turning into something very, very real for them. So I thought that was a really good story to tell.
All right. I went down a different route. As you are well aware, I am a Norse pagan. I love
Hmm.
Norse mythology. I love the stories. I mentioned this one to you last time, so I'm going to read the full story to you.
Okay.
It's called The Wedding of Thor. So one morning, Thor awoke to find his hammer Mjolnir missing. This was no small matter. Without the Thunder God's best weapon, Asgard was left vulnerable to the attacks of the giants. In a rage, he searched everywhere for his most prized possession, but it was nowhere to be found. The goddess Freya owned falcon feathers, with which one could change one's shape into that of a falcon. She lent these to Thor and Loki, so that the hammer could be located. Loki, who knew how to shift his shape, donned the feathers, and flew off in search of the treasure. He quickly surmised that it had probably been stolen by the giants. So he rode the winds to their homeland, Jotunheim. Are you familiar with the Nine Realms?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So the Nine Realms in Norse mythology
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is Asgard, Midgard, then there's Vanaheim, then there's Jotunheim, then there's Alfheim, then there's Svartalfheim, then there's Helheim, then there's Niflheim,
Niflheim.
yes, and then there's Muspelheim.
Muspelheim.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
I know Asgard. I didn't know
Asgard
there
is the
was.
home of the gods.
Okay.
Yes. Midgard is here,
Okay.
Earth, humans. Vanaheim is the Vanir. So there's different gods. There's the Vanir, and then there's the Aesir.
Okay.
The Vanir gods go into Vanaheim. Then
Mm.
there's Jotunheim, which is Jotun's giants, the land of the giants. Then there's Alfheim, which is, can you guess?
Hell?
No, it's the home of elves.
Oh.
Hmm. Then there's Svartalfheim, which is
Niflheim.
home of the dwarves.
Mm.
Then there's Helheim,
Okay.
which is the land of the dead.
Land of the dead.
Helheim in Norse mythology is where people who died of old age and people who died of sickness go.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just the land of the
The
dead.
land of, so
It's
there's
no
not
nothing
like
torturing,
no
nothing normal.
demons
It's
and
just
stuff like that. Well, demons are
it's
technically
just severely cold.
spirits. Okay. Ew.
Yeah, it's just
Why
super
does it have to
cold.
be cold? Helheim?
Yeah,
Wow,
it
Christians
just
really took something and made it something way worse. Like,
it depends really because I've seen different interpretations of Helheim.
hmm
Some paint it as like super cold, super frigid.
yeah.
Others paint it as super hot, super humid. So depends on, but it's just a place where old people and people who are sick go.
Okay.
Um, Niflheim is just the land of ice, and then Muspelheim is the land of fire.
I want to go to Niflheim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fire,
Like,
lava everywhere.
hell yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So upon his arrival, he changed back into his god form and approached the chief of the giants, Thrym. When questioned regarding the hammer, Thrym answered that he had indeed taken it, and that it was buried 8 miles below the ground. And, added the lonely, ugly giant, he had no intention of returning it until Freya was made to be his bride. So Loki flew back to Asgard and told this news to his fellow gods, who were alarmed and furious, especially Freya. As they sat in council, Heimdall put forth the following solution: that Thor go to Jotunheim disguised as Freya, and thereby win back his hammer and take vengeance on its thieves. You familiar with Heimdall?
Mm-mm.
So Heimdall is the guardian, basically, of the Bifrost in Asgard. He'll open the gate so that the gods can go through and
Oh,
that humans can pass through.
interesting.
Whatever happens in Asgard that needs the Bifrost, that's Heimdall. That's his responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah. Heimdall also has eyes where he can see everything in Midgard
That is really
and everything
interesting.
in general. Yeah.
Ah. He kind of that story, the guy that's standing guard kind of reminds me of for voodoo, what's his name? Can't think of his name right now. Wow.
I'm sure it'll come back to you at some
I'm
point.
sure, yeah, he's the main guy, and he's actually who people usually will try to speak to. That's you're not supposed to call his name, like if especially if you're not a part of the culture or the
Mm,
belief system, but you call his name. You'll give him like presents and gifts, and he can like tell you about something in your future, um, or wish you well. But he's not. He's not necessarily the greatest. But yeah, anyways,
are you talking about Papa Legba?
Papa Legba. Yeah.
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 That
He
was like
kind
I
of
was gonna
reminds
say
me of
that
that.
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Papa
Wears the
Legba,
cool
yeah.
hat and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that.
But Thor protested, saying that this was dishonorable and unmanly thing to do, and that all of the inhabitants of Asgard would mock him for it for the rest of his days. Loki pointed out, however, that if he didn't consent to Heimdall's plan, Asgard will be ruled by the giants. The gods thereby obtained Thor's acquaintance. No detail was spared and the semblance of Thor's bridal dress. After the humiliated god had donned the costume, Loki offered to go with him as his maidservant. The pair climbed into Thor's goat drawn chariot and made their way to Jotunheim. When they arrived, they were welcomed by Thrym, who boasted that the gods had at last brought him the prize he was due. At dinner, Thor and Loki found themselves in trouble. Thor single handedly ate an entire ox, ate salmon, and all of the dainties that had been prepared for the women,
Mm.
not to mention the many barrels of mead he drank. This made Thrym suspicious, and he declared that he had never in his whole life seen a woman with such an appetite.
You
Lo-
never met me. Hmm.
Facts. Loki quickly devised a response, stating, "The fair goddess has been so lovesick for you," he claimed, "that she hasn't been able to eat for a week." Thrym accepted this answer and was overcome by a desire to kiss his bride. When he peeled back the veil, Thor's eyes glared at him so intently that they seemed to burn holes right through him. He exclaimed, "Never have I seen a maiden with such frightfully piercing eyes." Loki, the master of deceit, explained to the giant that while Freya had been unable to eat, she had also been unable to sleep. So fierce was her longing for him. The ceremony soon followed. As was customary, Thrym called for a hammer to hollow their union. When Mjolnir was laid in Thor's lap, he grabbed its handle and slew first Thrym, then all of the guests before contentedly returning to Asgard and changing back into his preferred clothes.
Hmm. Interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories, actually.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
Kind of playing with them a little bit.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, a lot.
Cross-dressing. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because Thor was so against her,
Hmm.
and that's just Thor though. He's like a manly man. He's like the man's man kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like you won't see him doing anything that he deems as unmanly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like that guy. And everybody else is just like fucking relax. You're just dressing up.
Hmm.
You got to get your hammer back somehow.
Exactly.
Loki's like, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna do some trickery.
It's
Yeah.
fucking with
And
people.
my favorite thing is that as soon as he got Mjolnir back, he just killed everybody there.
Ah,
Everyone except for Loki, obviously.
damn.
But he killed everybody
Of course.
there. No witnesses.
I'm trying to think of like a Christian story that's similar to that, but I can't because Christians they steal everything.
Yeah.
But I can't think of one. Yeah, they're just notorious for like twisting like a lot of pagan stories, lore like that, and then turning it into something stupid.
Yeah. I was
That was
also
actually really, really good.
I was also thinking like because I was reading a lot of like the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda before writing this. Um, but like one of my also favorite stories of Thor is how Thor and Jormungandr came to beef with each other. And it was on a fishing trip.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
Thor was out there catching fish as you do, and then he accidentally hooked the serpent when the serpent was still tiny and kind of growing. Um, and didn't really I believe he didn't like the look of it or it scared him somewhat and just hit him with his hammer. And
You said Thor did this?
yeah,
Oh shit.
Thor hit the world serpent with Mjolnir
Oh wow.
and like didn't kill him, obviously.
Yeah,
It just pissed him off. And from that day forward, he vowed to kill Thor one day.
that big serpent that
Yep, the
circles
world
around.
serpent. Yep,
Oh shit.
yeah,
Hmm.
the world serpent who can wrap his body around the world twice and
Yeah,
bite his
you
tail.
told
Yeah.
me about that a little while. Like okay, I don't really have an understanding about like the Norse religion or Norse paganism.
Hmm.
So everything that you're telling me is brand new.
Yeah.
These are not new ears. So I'm just learning about this. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
very
I think
fascinating.
you'll find that the stories of the Norse mythology are so vast and various.
Hmm.
Like especially the story of Sleipnir. which is Loki's son, the six-legged horse.
Have I heard about that book? I
It's the
feel like I've
horse that
heard.
Odin rides into battle.
Okay.
Um, but how that came to be is Loki turned into a mare and fucked a horse,
Hmm.
fucked a stud,
Hmm.
and got pregnant, gave birth, and then came back to Asgard with Sleipnir. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. They just went missing. Like everybody was like, "Where's Loki?" And then Loki just comes back with a six-legged horse. I
Yeah.
said, "This is my kid."
This sounds way more fascinating than like Sodom and Gomorrah and shit, like where they're just damning or yeah, damning everyone
Yeah,
who, practices anything outside of them or worships any false prophet or god.
I tell people that Loki is the pinnacle of pansexuality.
Mm.
Hole's a hole,
A hole is a hole,
especially if it's my own.
especially. Oh, nothing wrong with that. Like, you got to get it where you can.
Yeah, Loki certainly does.
I
He's got a lot of
got a
gifts.
respect for him. Oh, yeah. From what I was hearing,
Yeah,
it's like,
there's Sleipnir, the
uh-huh.
six-legged horse.
Uh-huh.
There's Jormungandr,
Yeah.
the world serpent. There's Fenrir, the giant wolf.
Hmm.
There's Hel. She is the ruler of Helheim. She's half dead, so half her body is beautiful and radiant. The other half is like a corpse.
Ooh.
She's hot as hell. Listen.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then there's so many. There's so many kids.
Yeah, I was hearing from another friend who's very well versed in Norse paganism, that he has like
Yeah,
thousands of
yeah,
kids.
and we only know a few.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
probably more.
Hmm.
He was a hoe.
Yeah,
He was out there. He was in
probably still is.
those,
Probably still is out there.
yes, in
Listen,
those
I've
spirit
been I've been
streets.
called a child of Loki here and there in
Mm-hmm.
my life.
Yeah. Ooh, ooh, child. All right. Get it how you live.
But yeah, that's it for me for this episode.
Okay. You're
Yeah.
right. I guess this is one of the smaller ones because,
Yeah.
like, I was gonna share one, but I kind of like how our stories kind of work together. The other one, I feel like I want to save for the next episode, but um, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
this is it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it for me too. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed this little episode of the folklore. We hope you guys have a good day, evening, or night, whatever you're listening to this. And as always, here at the Dead Air Podcast, we like to hear from you, not
Not
about
about
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.